When you have a lot of content owners, so that's the people creating content and adding it to digital channels, you need a way to keep them all on the same page. And that alignment brings consistent voice to every screen, every web page, every channel, and keeps all of the quality standards higher. I'm Laura. I'm a product leader specializing in B2B software. This is my esteemed colleague, Andy. And I'm going to talk about building a content contributor community. When you have a lot of contributors and they're all in different departments, different countries with different skill levels, and they're working on separate but interconnected things in multiple languages, things get chaotic really fast, especially in larger siloed organizations. Most content contributors may not even know each other, let alone work together. They might not understand what guidelines to follow, how to follow them, or where to get help. And with so many moving parts and so much variation in authors and editors, quality will suffer if you don't get a handle on it. So how do you get dozens of people from around the organization and around the world to act like a team? You make them into a community. To determine who should be part of this community, you just identify everyone who edits content. And if that sounds like a tough job, it probably is. But if you're using a content management system or CMS, the technical owners of that CMS should be able to give you a list of who has access, and that is a great starting point. Additionally, look for anyone who creates content, even if they don't actually put it into a digital channel. There might be some people feeding content to other folks. If the organization is really complex or large, you're not going to get everyone on the first pass, and that's fine. Just start with the people who actively make edits or want to contribute, and then invite those folks to regular calls. I start with usually a monthly or quarterly cadence. It's better to start with a little more frequent, but you don't want to burn everyone out. And then you can taper down once everyone's a little more comfortable. Due to time zone differences, you might have to repeat the call in order to reach everyone in a time that works for them. At one point, I was doing calls. I think I did one for Asia Pacific, one for the West Coast of the US, one for the East Coast and Europe. What that meant was I had to repeat myself 3 times in a row every time I did this call. And it felt a little weird, but the community appreciates hearing things directly. And then what topics you discuss depend on what's going on, obviously. But some things you can cover are any kind of announcements with the community, like new members, CMS related news, like new templates or patterns, content guidelines, those kinds of things. If you have any common areas, like a homepage that needs content that's sourced from anywhere in the company, you can ask for it here and see who's got something to put up there. Any upcoming infrastructure maintenance that's going to impact things, reminders to use any reference documentation that you've written it and where to find it and how people can get support if they need it. You can consider a friendly competition for things like who's got the best SEO value or things like that. And sometimes a competition brings the community together. Sometimes it's just a distraction. So that's a judgment call that you would need to make based on your organization and the folks you've got together. Lastly, remember that community is a two-way street. So always listen for concerns, confusion, suggestions. So a country might require a character set that's not available currently that you need to get added, or they might have trouble finding the right kind of imagery, things like that. So just hear and address those concerns, and it builds trust among the community that they're being heard and supported. And then I supplement the calls with a regular newsletter that just repeats the information from the call. And now that Andy's a little more comfortable, I supplement the calls with a regular newsletter that just repeats what was in the call. It's good for anyone who missed the call, anyone with a little bit of a language barrier who can read a little bit more slowly than you talk, and can provide some more in-depth details if you need that too. And of course, make use of any Slack or message board platforms that your company has available. You can use those for free or very low cost, and that ongoing communication and ability for contributors to support each other not only furthers the sense of being in this together, but it also takes some of the support load off of you, which is very nice. This approach is really pragmatic, particularly if funding is limited, because while budgets tend to be abundant for technology licenses and design agencies, all of a sudden that money dries up when it comes to internal things like supporting the people who have to use all this stuff. And this really costs nothing or next to nothing. You're holding a few phone calls and sending some emails. It's a grassroots process, so it can sidestep any internal politics and battles over ownership and authority and all of that. And finally, because membership is on a volunteer basis, you'll get champions from around the organization who are eager to participate and advocate for this community. And finally, providing the tools and information that content owners need not only enables them to do their best work, but it also adds to the feeling of support. And everyone likes being set up for success. You'll find that overall content quality rises, not just in terms of the raw content, but also any layouts, formatting, and of course, the regularity of updates. Now, there will naturally be some challenges in forming this community. For one thing, not everyone who should participate will want to. And since you are not running a dictatorship, I assume, you probably can't force them. And this is where leadership buy-in is a huge help. But if leadership isn't convinced, you might need to run the community as a smaller group for a while and show some benefits and then get official support. And as a logistical obstacle, if you're dealing with calls on the other side of the world, that's always tough. No matter when you schedule them, it's very early or very late for someone and someone's going to be tired on the call. I find that, running around 7 or 8 a.m. and then 7 or 8 p.m. on the other side of the world, it tends to work pretty okay. And then the newsletter supplements for anyone who had trouble following along. This all sounds very simple, and on paper, it is. The complexity comes in identifying the right people, getting everyone excited to participate, and keeping it going. Even then, forming a community of content owners and contributors is one of the simplest things a platform owner can do to help drive continued quality. And by the way, this doesn't just work for content. You can use this approach for things like assembling a customer advisory board or anytime you need folks to contribute in a certain way as a group while not reporting to you. And if this sounds like something you could use help with, come find me on LinkedIn. I'll post a link to that and my website below. Oh.